Hey, and welcome to Jim Sells the Suncoast. Today, I'm very excited to have Kayla Lamb on here. She is a property manager and investor with NextHome Excellence. And we're taking a different look at the Suncoast and all things investor related. So, Kayla, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about you and how you got involved in this crazy industry.
Thanks for having me, Jim. My name is Kayla Lamb. I work with Jim at NextHome Excellence. I run the property management division over here in Sarasota, Florida. I started in property management, I think I was 25. So I've been doing it for about 8 years now. I started with NextHome Excellence. I've been here since I began, and Stevie Crum kind of took me. She had a smaller book of about 40 properties, and she just said, "You want to learn property management?" And I'm like, why not? I saw the profit in it, and sales are awesome as well. I did some sales. I do well in sales too, but I like the stability aspect of property management. I knew I wanted to have kids later in life, and so having that stability was important to me. So that's what ultimately made me go into property management. But after I saw the money that my owners were making, I'm like, hey, I could do that. And so I bought my first investment property. Actually, it was before I got into property management, really, because I was 22. I used the home hack strategy for mine. So I was pretty young when I got into it. It was really just watching Stevie and her owners and watching the agents here and doing their thing. And it's just like, why not? And I never stopped from there. It's been great. Yeah.
So, what does a property manager do every
Oh,
day?
what do we not do? No day is the same, which is the good and the bad of property management. So really, I start my day by going through my phone first because your phone never stops. A lot of property managers do not give out their personal cell phone number, and as we grow, I definitely see why. It never stops. There's when you're running over 100 houses, you're working with over 100 owners. You have 300 tenants. Someone's always wanting to talk to you. So the first thing I do is clear my emails, my voicemails, my text messages, and just make sure that if there's any emergencies, any repairs going on, I get that started. Usually there's leases that are getting ready to end. There's showings that need to happen. So I start doing research on that. How's the market for that house that needs to renew, or trying to get the best price for my owners, but also keeping that tenant because vacancy is an owner's worst nightmare. And then it's just running around doing whatever needs to be done. If I need to pick up keys, I need to do showings. If I need to go put eyes on a property, if I need to do 6 month walkthroughs, whatever it is. There's security deposit claim letters that I have to drop off. There's notices that I have to post. So really, we do a lot. I think the main thing is really handling repairs, making sure you're communicating with everybody that needs. Sometimes people just want to talk. They're frustrated over life, and there just happens to be one thing going on at the property, and you get on the phone with them, and they just need to rant for 20 minutes. So sometimes it's just being that person that is the sounding board, really. But a lot of the times it's showings, which, Jim, I know you started working with me a lot recently. See that there's always properties that need to be filled, doing credit and background checks, fielding applicants, and things like that. So that's really a big part of my job. It's just really managing that property and making sure that my owners are making their money and keeping their investment.
That liaison between the two, right? So either side has a problem. You're the one that has to step in and fix it and then report back.
Exactly. Yes. It's always going. It was hard for me, definitely after having kids, of learning. Hey, I have an emergency hotline where if there's a fire, call the emergency hotline after you call 911. But it took a lot for me where it's like, no, I'm having dinner with my family. I need to put my phone down because it's constant. There's always people who are trying to get a hold of me and need to talk or want to talk, and there's always something going on. So just being that middleman.
And what kind of properties do you manage on the Suncoast?
So I started really just doing condos and single family. Now I just recently took over my first multifamily. I partnered with Desiree Doggett, who is a big property manager here in Sarasota, Florida, and she's been an awesome partnership. She's amazing. And she does multifamily, pretty much only multifamily. So that really opened up the doors here at NextHome Excellence to start and seeing how to run a multifamily, because there's a lot more profitability in multifamily for owners and for us as property managers. You have one owner of 15 doors rather than having 15 to 30 owners for 15 doors. So only having to communicate with that one owner, you get to know them, they get to trust you, and that relationship just becomes a lot more streamlined. So we do almost everything here. We're doing multifamily, we do single family, we do short term with a 1 month minimum. We do not do Airbnbs or VRBOs. We don't do daily or weekly rentals, but we do 1 month seasonals, which is very popular here because a lot of the places hold, you can only have 1 month lease. A lot of them don't like the apartment style. And then we do multifamily. I will say the one thing that we do not do is commercial, which we are working on finding someone to partner with, because that's a door that I would love to open and learn about. I'm someone who likes to learn about everything, and I love partnering with different people who know things that I don't and learning from them. So that's something that we're definitely interested in diving into. But right now we don't do it. We don't manage commercial properties.
Right. And then let's talk a little too about some of the terms we're going through here, because I know the first time I heard it, it's a whirlwind and it's different, right? So we talk about doors, which is really the number of rental units that you have, whether it's 1, 15, or 30, and then multifamily. So I know we're thinking residential, and smaller investors are single family homes or single condos or townhomes up to 4 in one location, right? And then multifamily would be 5 or more, apartment complexes, small apartment buildings, those kind of things.
Right. So thanks for taking that, because it's hard sometimes. I forget that you don't know the difference. But so just recently we took over a 15 door apartment building, and it's actually an apartment building that has 8 units, 4 on the top, or 4 on the bottom, 4 on the top. And then there are 2 sets of duplex on the same plot. So it's 15 units, and 12 units. And so there's one owner for those 12 units. And it's easier because you have one owner that's making the decisions that you're communicating with. So if something's going on, I learned that owner. I know who he wants me to use for plumbing. I know who he wants me to use for the handyman things, putting up, if a shower needs to be regrouted, I'm going to call this person. I know at what price point he wants me to communicate with him, or if he just wants me to leave him alone. If it's $200, he's like, don't even bother reaching out to me. So it makes things a lot easier, where it's also a lot more profitable for the owner too, but it's easier for us because, like I said, it's one building, it's one contractor. That contractor usually knows the building. They've been working with the owner for a long time. Same tree people, same grass people, all the things. So that's been a great, for a lot of investors. I think a lot of people are going towards more multifamily. It takes more money to get into because usually the buildings do cost a little more upfront, but the profitability is higher as well, because you have now 12 doors that are renting out and that are income revenue, where if it's only 1 or 2, if you don't have that 1 unit rented out, you're not making anything. Where if you have the 12 units, if you have 10 of them rented out and the 2 are sitting empty, it's really not affecting you that much. You're still making that mortgage payment. You're still making a little bit of an income. So that's the difference.
So it's a progression, right? You work your way up.
Exactly.
So why invest in the Suncoast here? There are so many investors looking at Manatee and Sarasota County.
The real question, Jim, is why not? Now, I think the biggest thing is we have no state income tax, right? That's a big one. That's a reason that a lot of people move down here. Every single time I take a new investor phone call, new owner phone call, that's the first thing they mention is if they're just moving down here. They're thrilled about it. But also we are constantly growing here. We have new businesses coming here all the time. We have people just moving. We have people retiring here. There's a lot of jobs coming to the area, which is creating people. They need homes. The more people that come here, the more homes we need. So there's just a lot of different reasons. We don't shut down during the winter, so a lot of businesses are able to function year round, where when they're up north, they're closed 3 to 4 months of the year, which they're losing income during those months. We don't have that here. We don't have the snow. So there's a lot of different reasons, but I would say those are definitely the 2 most. Definitely during COVID, we saw a huge amount of people just flock here. And we didn't shut down. That was one thing, but a lot of people were able to work virtually from home, and they're like, why am I going to work here in the snow when I can go work in the sun in Florida? A lot of those people didn't have to go back to work, and they started to realize that actually people were getting more done virtually when they were coming into the office. So they were like, hey, we had a lot of people buying homes. We had a lot of people just move here and rent. So there's just a lot of reasons to move here, but definitely the 2 biggest is the no income tax That I hear time and time again. And then also our weather.
Mhm. So would you say we're seeing more out of town or out of state buyers and investors than local as they're moving or finding this area?
I would say a lot of people are out of state. Definitely the biggest one. It's funny because I swear every year it changes. This year for me, Texas, I'm having a lot of people from Texas coming down and buying or renting here, and they just decided to come to Florida. But it's funny because every year I'm like, oh, now it's this area, now it's New York,
Right,
now,
right.
but this year for me, it's Texas. But yeah, I would say a lot of people from different states. A lot of the time when I'm working with people who are moving and they're from here, it's usually, oh, their job transferred them from Venice and now they're going to Northport because a lot of things are building in Northport. We have a lot of new hospitals going in there. We
Mhm.
have a lot of new just businesses. So they've been getting transferred. So they're looking, they're selling one home, transferring to another area or renting. Um, the same thing with investors. They're like, oh, we have Welland Park down there. Everything is building there. I'm going to buy an investment home there. And we've seen a lot of that. So many different owners now calling us who own something in one park because they see how much Northport is growing, and the prices are still very low.
Right.
They're pretty low there. You can get a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house still in the 200s, threes. So they're growing, so that home value is going to continue to go up, and they can still make that good money in rent, and pay that mortgage off. So I would say definitely more out of state, but a lot of people here are also just deciding to buy because they see opportunity.
Right. Are there any neighborhoods or communities you think are getting attention from investors?
Yes, definitely Welland Park. Like I said, Northport is a huge one. Me being one of them, I see the potential there. I'm seeing a lot more people go into the Parish area than I did
Mhm.
before. And then also, obviously, Lakewood Ranch. I will say Lakewood Ranch is getting to that price point where it doesn't make a lot of sense if you're doing it as an investment property. But I do see a lot of people who are, in the heart of Sarasota. They're all living off of like Bee Ridge, Soda Springs, Colonial Oaks, and they're moving to Lakewood Ranch because it has opportunities for their family, their children,
Right.
more out there. And so then they're deciding to rent their home and rather than sell it here in Sarasota Springs and Sarasota because they can still get a good amount in rent here.
Mhm.
They're moving up to that area. So I'm seeing a
Right.
lot
And they
of
don't
that.
have the cost associated. Yeah. Makes sense. Let's look maybe some first-time investor questions because I think, and I'm one of them. Many listeners are curious but don't know where to start. So, if somebody were going to look at their first rental property, what's the first step?
There's two directions you could go with this, really. So say when I started out, I knew when I bought my first home, I wanted at some point to rent it out. I knew I was never going to sell anything I bought.
Mhm.
So for me, I was going to use the house hacking. I was young. I was by myself. I was single. It's like, why not? I bought my first house. I knew even though I was on my own, I wanted it to be a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom because I knew that was where I was going to get the most profit when I decided
Right.
to rent it out. It was just me then. I knew at the long run that was where the money was. So I found a cute little block frame, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house. I lived there for a little under 2 years while I saved up to buy my second home. And that's how I bounced. So I did it with single family homes, which if I back in time, I'll be honest, I probably would have bought a triplex rather
Yeah.
than and lived in one unit and rented out the other two and used that. But I did it in single family homes and I still did very well. And I see people doing it all the time. And it's still a great way to go, right? Because it's still a growing value. I bought my first at 200 flat. I lived there for 2 years and then I rented out now consistently. And the value now is around 350. So
Mhm.
not only am I making the cash flow from it, but I'm also building that equity in it, which is awesome. Um, but when someone's starting out, that's the way I did it. There's that way. But then say it's someone who they already own their forever home. They're not looking to move. They're not looking to bounce. They have kids. They have other things going on. Okay. Well, at that, the first step, I'm going to talk to your lender. Where are you at financially? When it's your time, you don't have that past landlord history. So you do have to come up with, that 25%. Interest rates
Mhm.
are usually a little higher. So that's really the first step is go and talk to your lender, see what you do, see what you can afford first off, definitely down and see like, okay, are you building a fixer upper? Do you have the money in the bank to put that 25% down? But also, are you going to need to paint? Are you going to need to do flooring? Is there drywall that needs to be done? How's the roof? How's the AC? Or do you buy something, you have a little more, but you don't have the money or the time to do those repairs, and you don't want to do that fixer upper? Okay, well, then that's a different route. So first step, talk to the lender, see where you are financially, see if you're, where you need, because just because you're not ready this year doesn't mean you're not going to be ready next year. I did have a first-time investor recently. They got a huge bonus at their work, and they knew that they wanted to buy a multifamily home. So they went, it's a sixplex, because they had the 25% down. They bought it, had 2 tenants in place, and the other 4 were vacant. They needed new ACs. So he knew that he did need a reno loan. So he got a loan for the sixplex, but also with an extra $100,000 to use in renovations on the other 4 units, because they needed some things, all kinds of, they needed to be flipped, they needed some care. And so, but, he talked to his financial advisor, he talked to his lender, they were able to work out the numbers. I told him what he could get in rent for it every month in the 4 once we were able to get them rented out. So he could tell that it made sense. But I would say my first advice is talk to your sales agent, talk to your lender, and talk to your property manager. Talk to someone who will give you rental stats of the area, so you can see like, okay, this is buying it for. Am I going to be able to make that money back? Am I going to be able to pay that mortgage? Talk to your sales agent again to run the sales comps to see, is this priced correctly, accurately? And then your lender is most important, to see if, do you have money that it really is going to take? Because you not only need that down payment, but you also are going to need money to live after, while that is getting up on the ground and getting people placed. So
2 things in there I want to follow. One, you talked about house hacking. Let's go through that, because I think that is a fabulous way for somebody particularly who's buying their first home and maybe doesn't, maybe the career, a lot of things going on. And you talked about how you did it. One, let's talk about what is it, and then what are the steps that go through, kind of in a stroke on that.
Okay, so a lot of people don't know that when you're buying a house that you're going to live in, you only have to put 3 to 5% down. If you buy an investment property that you're not planning to live in, you're planning to rent out, you have to put 20 to 25 to sometimes 30% down. Much more income you need saved in the bank. Most people don't have that type of money in the bank, definitely when they're buying their first home. I definitely didn't. That's why I went the house hacking way. So house hacking really is, you buy that house, you plan to live in it for a year or longer. Really, it's supposed to be 2 years. Yeah. You live for the 2 years while you save up your next 3 to 5% down, and then you're buying your other house that you're going to live in. So now you have that house, that first house, you only had to put 3 to 5% down in. You lived in it for 2 years, so you got some money out of it as well. You were living there. And then you're like, oh, well, my life is growing. I want to live in a bigger house, or I want to live in a different area. So then you're going to rent out the house that you just put 3 to 5% down in, rent it out for hopefully equal or more than what you're paying in the mortgage. And then you're going to live and move into that next house that you also only had to put 3 to 5% down in, because you're also going to live in that house for another year or 2. So you live in there for another year or 2 while you save up that next 3 to 5%. You're growing, your life is, it's evolving. Now you live in this area, or you want a bigger house. So you jump again. So now you have 2 investment properties that are cash flowing, making you money. You only had to put 3 to 5% down in, so you didn't have to have that big goose egg, of 25 down. And now you have 2 investment properties, and you own, your maybe forever home. And usually by that time, you're making that cash flow, and hopefully you're banking it. There's going to be repairs. There's going to be money that needs to be put in, because you want to also keep that asset. You want to keep up with that asset, because not only are you making that daily that monthly, but you also want to sell it for a profit, right? It's a long-term investment as well. So you're going to be putting some money into that, but you're living in the other house. You're making that cash flow from those 2 properties. So hopefully maybe by that time you have those 2 properties, and now that 30% down doesn't seem like such a stretch anymore. So then you can go and buy your multifamily or your bigger income. But that's really what house hacking is. Some people will do that and build 5 investment properties. They start right at the time they're 30, they're to 7 properties in, and they only had to put 3 to 5% down on each property, which is not so undoable, So that's where hacking is.
Yeah, I think it a lot of sense, especially when you're starting out, where you might not have a lot of money, but you have time. So you can
Right.
put it in there and go through those couple of years as you slowly grow it. And at the end of 10 years, you could have 3, 4, 5 properties. And then you can go to that next step where you could accelerate it faster.
And the fun thing about that is like, if you're a single adult, and this is why I say, if I could go back in time, you can do it with a duplex. You can do it with a triplex. You cannot do it with a sixplex. You can't do it with a multifamily. A multifamily, anything over 4 units, you are going to have to put that. It's an investment property at that point. You're going to have to put that 25 to 30% down. But you can do a duplex or a triplex. And with that, okay, so you're living on one side, you're collecting rent from the other 2 sides. You only had to put the 3 to 5% down. You're pretty much living for free, because hopefully your rents are paying the mortgage. Hopefully.
Right.
Even if it's not completely, say you're only paying $500 in rent. That's unheard of here. You're not finding anything for $500. You own the house. You're only paying $500, to survive. You also have that investment property that you can one day sell. And
as appreciation grows, you've got the cash flow covering the month to month, and down the road, you've got the appreciation.
Exactly.
So as a new person buying a home, you're probably working full time. Maybe your partner's working. How do you manage this? And that goes right into a property manager. So what does a property manager do? Why should some property manager rather than do it themselves?
Oh God, there's so many reasons.
Just shoot for a day and you'll see.
Exactly. Managing a property is a lot more work than a lot of people think. And honestly, it's not so much because of the house. It's because you're working with the public. And that's just me being honest. You're working with other people. You have to be able to wear 7 different hats at once and be able to communicate with all these different types of people. And it can be hard. Definitely when you are emotionally attached to that property. You bought that property. You built that property. You're gold. The tenant doesn't see it that way. They don't see the money and the energy and the time that is spent for you to put in that property. And that, I will say, is probably one of the biggest mistakes that I see owners make, is that they are very emotionally attached to that property and the things that are in that property. And you're like, but this is an investment. It's a business. It's not it's not your home. So I would say that's the one biggest reason to hire a property manager. But also, when you're time, if you're triplex, are you able to answer phone calls? Definitely when you have an emergency. Say you have a storm came through and, now you have a roof that's damaged, you have windows that are out, that, your electricity, you're also dealing with your own home. There's a lot going on there. Do you have a team in place? And it took years to build the team of, I have vendors that I worked with for years and years that are licensed and insured that I trust. And they also be great prices because I use them all the time. I can't tell you how much money I've saved my owners on repairs just because, my AC used to put in who knows how many AC units. So he gives us a good discount when he's going to do an AC unit in one of my properties because he wants me to continue to use him because he knows that one AC is going to turn into 20 ACs. Same with my handyman, the same way. They also know that, hey, I need documentation of all of this. If when you go there, I want pictures of before the repair. I want pictures of after the repair. A lot of owners don't think of that. They don't think of how much documentation it takes, where if, God forbid, you do get sued, you need to have everything documented. That's another thing that I've had some owners who are not using property managers call me and are like, oh, I've had the same tenant for 3 years. They were great the first 2. Now they're suing me because they're saying there's mold in the house. I'm like, well, when did they report the mold? When, and so every year, that's another thing, education. Every through multiple hours of Florida law, rental law education. And that's something that I pride myself on. I know how it works. I know when do I need to have a security deposit claim letter sent out? If forbid there's signs of mold in the property, how am I supposed to legally react? I know that. When it comes to pets or HUD or, there you can't even say. And if you say it, you can get sued. And there are people who call and try to catch you in that off moment. So and it can very pricey for the owner. So really that manager is it's a safety net. It's not only just going to save you time and your energy, but it's a safety net. We keep you, and that's why we're interviewing property managers. It's good to ask, do you local attorney company that specializes in Florida rental law? That's another answer needs to be yes, because the laws change every month. There are different things that come into play every month. It's also a thing. I will tell you, if you go online, you will see on social media, you'll see every day people are like, I'm looking for a home that's managed by an owner. I want an owner. Why do you think that they want to talk to that owner and not the property management company? Because they know the property management company is going to run that credit and background check. They're going to do that income verification. They're they're not trust. A lot of people go, and this is a good thing, we are like relationship. We trust people. So they take people, the people job story on the phone, and you want to believe them, you want to help them, you want to be that good person, but not everyone is honest. And so that's why you'll see a lot of it. A lot of people do not want to work with property management companies, and it is because we usually do our due diligence and they don't want you to. And that's
you're dealing with an asset that could be several $100,000. You need to do it properly.
Yep, exactly. Let us do the documentation. Let us handle God forbid someone wants to pay you. Let us deal with it. We have everything. We did our leases through took before and after pictures of every step. We have all the communication documented. We know when this repair was. We know when we worked on it. We can literally dive in and show everything. So a lot of the times when people are like, "Oh, we're going to sue you over this," I'm like, "Okay, come on, I have," and then further because they're like, "Oh crap." So it's really a safety net having a property manager. Yes, we cost money, we do, but we also save a lot of money too if you use the
right. It costs a lot less for a property manager than a lawsuit.
Exactly.
So let's kind of talk about the spectrum of services. I know you mentioned a couple of them in there, but like screening tenants and maintenance, kind of just a quick overview of some of the steps. If somebody was going to come with you, what would you be able to do for them?
Yeah, so we have different packages here. So I'll go through our main one, full service. So you come to us. We do professional photography at our cost. Photography goes such a long way. When there are several things available, you want your property to stand out. So we do professional photography at our cost. We market everywhere. We spend a lot of money in marketing. We are on every rental site. We are on social media. We really try to cover all bases. Once we start getting inquiries and getting showings, we do all the showings. We handle all the inquiries. We answer all the questions. You're only talking to me the whole time. Mostly me. So you're just one person. Usually I'm just texting, like if it's something I don't know, hey, what size is the air filter here? It's just me. You can text me whenever you want. And once we find someone who's interested, we do full credit background checks. I do work verification, income verification. I do past rental history. So if they had just moved out, obviously I go back to what they've told me, but I am calling those past landlords. I am making sure that I get at least 3 past rental histories, unless they owned. And at that point, I even look up warranty deeds to make sure that they did own that home and they did sell it. So we do all of that. Then we get our leases done by Sinweiss, which is a local attorney's office here that we work with hand in hand. They specialize in Florida rental law. So a full move-in inspection. That move-in inspection is top. I mean, there are pictures, Jim. That's the bottom of this property. So we know the condition that we're handing this property over to this tenant. And when it needs to come back in that condition, or we have the proof to do that security deposit claim. We collect the cost and security. We hold it in our escrow account, so you don't have to worry about the escrow. That is where landlords get sued, is with that escrow account and the security deposit and last month's rent. Where is it being held? What was it used for? So you don't have to worry about that. Then we do the move-in. We'll make sure the keys are made. We'll make sure the house is clean. We'll make sure it's completely ready for that tenant. They move in. That's really where the most of them comes in.
Right.
Even as they're living there, we are fielding all the repair calls. If there is a hurricane coming in, we're sending out the emails of make sure that you're prepared. We're texting those tenants to say, hey, are the windows boarded? Did you bring in the outside chairs and there's nothing else that can come through that window or cause damage to the property, we do the 6 months to just make sure that that tenant is taking care of the property the way they're supposed to. There's no hidden pets, no extra cats living in the property. So we handle it to finish. Luckily, our company does have a big success rate with keeping tenants, which is great because the less vacancy, the better. Vacancy is really the owner's worst nightmare. That's where they lose the most money, is when that property is vacant. So a lot of our tenants stay with us because we do take care of our property. We are very nice to our tenants. We try to take care of our tenants. And honestly, a lot of owners will get mad sometimes because they're like, hey, I feel like you're taking care of that tenant. I'm taking care of the tenant because I'm taking care of you. I want that tenant to stay. They're paying rent on time. They tell me when things are going wrong in the property. They're taking care of your asset. Let's keep them. Because if we lose them and we have 2 months of vacancy, and then we may not get that great tenant who's paying on time. With that communication, we keep between the owner and the tenant. But say they move out, we handle the security deposit claim. We go back in, we do all the move out pictures. If there's anything damaged, we handle the repair. We make sure that the security deposit claim letter is sent out in the 30 days that it's supposed to, or if there are no claims in the 15 days. Because God forbid the owner forgets to send out that security deposit claim letter and they do it in 32 days. Well, guess what? You just lost that claim. So you have a $1,500 claim. It's gone. That tenant can go back and they will win because you sent it out in 32 days rather than 30, and you didn't send out it properly. You didn't do it certified mail. You didn't send it with the letter. There's so much, but we handle all that from start to finish. So it's really, we try to make it as hands off to the owner as possible. And then we have finder's fee package, which is just that front portion of, screening the tenant, doing the pictures. And then once they're placed, we hand everything off to the tenant or off to the owner in a nice, pretty bow. We introduce tenants and owners together, and then the owner manages it after that. I will say I do those a lot, and I get a lot of calls during the tenancy. How do we handle this? What do we do if this happens? And I'm always happy to answer those questions because I want to keep the relationship with the owner, and I truly do want people to just be happy. And then they come around and use the full management next time.
Yeah, I think people realize how much time and effort really goes into it, not only initially up front, with all that detail, but the ongoing touches that have to happen so that you have a good outcome. I mean, you could do nothing and then have lots of issues afterwards, but you want to try to prevent that.
Exactly. And my owners will ask, like, well, why do we need to have the house cleaned? And why should we touch up these paints? And I'm like, if you get the house cleaned and that tenant is walking into a fresh house and they smell that it's in 409 and they know it's clean and we have the little flowers on the toilet paper, guess what? They feel good. They're like, oh, this owner cares. Oh, this house is ready for me. If they walk into a house that has dust everywhere and the fridge is dirty, it's just bad. I'm telling you, it makes the world of difference. I go from getting 7 calls of list of things that are wrong with the property to 1 call of like, oh, thank you so much for this. Hey, just so you know, it doesn't need fixed, but this is acting up. I just want you to have it documented. It's those that make the difference. And that's what I try to tell the owners is like, listen, if we have these items now, we don't have to deal with it when the tenant is there.
Right.
So it just makes that relationship stronger.
When we're looking at an investment and choosing the right investment, what features make a better rental property?
First, I'll say, I know of a lot of owners who like condos. I am seeing a lot of people go away from that. I am one of them. I personally don't want an HOA with my investment property for a few reasons. One of them is you never know when that HOA is going to go up unless you're a part of the board, which a lot of people don't have time to be. So that, your HOA skyrocket. I personally don't want someone having control of my expenses. So that's one of the reasons that I look for is when I'm working with an investor, I'm like, let's say these HOAs.
Right.
Frame. Me, I would live in a wood frame if I'm there and I'm living in it and I'm taking care of it. For an investment, I would say block frame for sure. And this is just because it's less maintenance. When you issue, it's a lot cheaper if you take care of it right then and there, where a lot of the time you don't get that option when there's a tenant in place because the tenant will just ignore the deferred maintenance until it gets really bad, and then you hold all in one side, and it becomes a price. I look for what there's a certain when I'm looking to make in a property, so price frame, price point is one for me. I know of a couple who have decided, they're like, I want to buy this really big fancy home because I'm going to be able to get $5,000-$6,000 for it a month. If someone's paying $5,000-$6,000 a month, they're buying. They're going to buy their own home. So that's something that I'm constantly having to teach people is try to stay in that sweet spot of, you're looking at a renter that's doing $25,000 to $3,000 a month. That's really where people are renting. So, you don't want that really big fancy home if it's going to ultimately be an investment, because those people who can pay those big prices are buying their own homes because they can afford to.
Right. I think you mentioned that earlier when you talked about the sentimentality that goes into it. If you're buying that for yourself, go all in.
Right.
If you're buying it as an asset that you're going to rent, what is actually renting and what makes sense? 3-bedroom, 2-bath, basic. You don't need all the nice stuff. You just want it safe and clean.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, I actually bought it because it was going to be my first flip. And then I ended up keeping it as an investment because I ended up in love with the house, which you're not supposed to do. But I knew, in that where I'm like, okay, I can a tenant in here and pay my mortgage at $3,000 a month. So that's important to make sure that you're staying in that price range where your mortgage is not. If you get a place that's a mortgage of $4,000 a month, that vacancy, if you don't get someone in there for 2 to 3 months, now you're in the hole. $12,000, which is a lot harder to recoup.
Right.
Where if your mortgage is $2,000 a month, then you can afford 2 months of vacancy, which takes a property find that right.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah, even with the marketing, because we have new builds going up left and right. We have new apartment complexes coming up all over the place, so people do have options. So you want to make sure that you're not making yourself house poor. You can't. You're going to have 100%, someone's going to be there paying that rent all the time, because that's just not being realistic. You want to make sure that you at least have 3 months of mortgage in the bank and ready to be able to, so you're not breaking your bank and putting yourself at risk. So that's my advice, is staying in that sweet spot price range. I personally feel like 25 to 3,000 point, because we have a lot of people in that price point. Block frames, something that it depends. Someone who could be a contractor, but you're just like that handyman and you can do it all yourself. Great, buy that thing that you can flip, and you can put the money into it. You build it up yourself and then get it on the market. That's great. A lot of us are not there, so yeah. It has granite countertops. Yeah, it's nice if it does, because they last a long time. But something that's right.
What about a pool? What do you think about a pool for an investment?
It goes back into that price point. Houses with pool, a little more here. One of my properties do have a pool. It not only is usually a higher price point when you buy it, but you also have to put into scenario that there are repairs that come with that pool. There's a monthly maintenance cost that comes with that pool. So I no, not anymore. That I do have an investment property that has a pool. It is income producing. The value of the home goes up a little more rapidly than without, but at the same time, that house without a pool is still it's still going up.
Would it be fair to say then, if you find one and it has a pool, lucky you, but don't go looking for a home with a pool, probably not going to pay off.
Exactly. And there's just more risk.
Yeah. What about newer versus older homes? Any major difference?
Well, so a lot of newer homes are in HOA communities. So first I'll go there. I already said I personally stay away from HOA communities. And a lot of newer communities, the HOAs start in the 200s, and then when they're done building, they shoot to the 600 or 700s. So there you go with, you don't know if that HOA fee is going to go up in the next 2 to 3 years, which for long-term investment, that's a big. There are good things about HOAs. Usually they cover the lawn. Usually they cover taxes. They do cover things, but I'm telling you, they are collecting more than what they're providing, because who's paying?
Well, if you base your business plan on, paying $200 an house and there's $500, now you are negative cash flow, which makes it very hard to continue to own that place.
And HOAs don't go down very rarely. So,
What do
but I
what do
mean,
they ask for you most?
oh, AC and plumbing issues. Are you meaning like repair wise or when looking for a place?
I think when they're looking for a place.
3 bedroom, 2 bath is the main thing.
Yeah.
I want a 3 bedroom, 2 bath for 2,000. It doesn't exist here.
Yeah.
But yeah, that basic bathroom home. Lawn maintenance included has been a big turn on for people. A lot of the time, I work a lot of single moms, so they're like they don't have time to deal with lawns or maintenance. But really, it's that 3 bedroom, bathroom, safe neighborhood. That's another thing. You want it to be in a safe community in an area that you worry about the crime. And then also a house that's in an area that has shopping nearby. That's another big one that I get. We have a lot of people out of
Okay.
state
Yeah.
like here. Yeah, and they a lot of virtual showings. Where I'm just on my phone with them and I take them around and I will tell you every single one of them are like, can you drive around? Can you show me where the nearest Publix is? Can you because they
Right.
want to know they don't area. So they want to know that they're first off that the community's safe and second off that they know where they get their stuff from, their groceries and
Well,
things.
that's how we give directions. You're going to drive by the 2 Publix and then turn at the
Exactly.
third.
Yeah, there's a McDonald's there.
That's right.
Exactly. So,
All right. For lightning round to wrap this up.
okay,
Best investment advice you ever received
buy low, sell high. No, buy now. Buy now.
about rental properties.
The landlord is rich.
Huh? Biggest landlord mistake.
Hire a property manager. Don't get AC maintenance contract. Get the contract. Do it. It's worth it.
Yeah.
We're in Florida.
Most overlooked expense.
Ooh. Fines, deferred maintenance, big one. Owners
Mhm.
don't want to put money into the home. A lot of them, they don't have the money to put in the home, and it's really important to continue to put money into
Right.
that home and update that home.
Best feature tenants love.
A nice kitchen. And I said communication.
Kayla, thank you for coming on here. We'll have to do a second round and really get into some of these things. But talking about property management's the way to do it on the Sun Coast, why people are coming down here, and we'll have all your contact information in the show notes so that anybody's interested in pursuing this or wanting to find out more, we'll be able to reach out to you. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Jim.